In your opinion, what needs to change in the cannabis space?
I think one of the big things that needs to change is the public perception is still, it's changed a lot over the years, but there's still a lot of that reefer madness mentality out there. And then that carries from the public all the way up through the power brokers, the legislators, etc. And I think here in Connecticut in particular, this last legislative session shows that that reefer madness mentality is still alive and well, and unfortunately may have been a big part of why some of what's happening here in Connecticut and also in other parts of the country and maybe even on a federal level is coming back. And I think that's where we missed the boat, or that's where the boat never got launched.
How do you think the CCSBA can help?
Maybe an organization like this that can engage on a more regular basis with a little bit more support might have a chance to have at least some input. And I think that the way these rules and regulations were put together were designed very specifically to divide us. So I think from the crowdsourcing point of view, hopefully that we can create a little bit more of a ability to impact that and let them know that, you know, it's not just a little guy here or there.
In your opinion, what needs to change in the cannabis space?
In my opinion, from the accounting perspective, I think that companies in the cannabis space need to focus more on cannabis is a business at its core and not just growing good product. So the average cannabis consumer right now, because of the lack of banking and lack of capabilities to access regular capital markets, one good area to go to is crowdfunding, which is not regulated and is not subject to the strict banking rules. And so until that changes, that's where a lot of small businesses can get their startup capital. So treating it as a business, looking at it as a business from the start, whether you're in a dispensary, whether you're a grow, you need to look at your numbers and you need to have a good financial plan, because at the end of the day, yes, there will be times when the prices are really good and you're going to make a lot of money, but at the end of the day, that's all going to settle out and the efficient and the effective companies are going to survive and are going to thrive.
How do you think the CCSBA can help that, or can help overall?
I think that the CCSBA can help by providing companies with good financial backing and advice, and also making sure that the rules are stabilized and don't change on a whim.
In your opinion, what needs to change in the cannabis space?
I think there's a lot of over-regulation going on right now that is due to the monopolization by corporate entities that are looking to capitalize on the newly regulated market. And they're trying to make such a jump to get into the market that only the wealthy or affluent or corporately connected can work in this industry. We'd like to see those legacy market players who have been providing those goods and services for the last 100 years to continue to, and then furthermore, transition into a regulated market, because that's how it should be. We would like to see some type of free market capitalism as well, and let the things play themselves out instead of giving these carpetbaggers from other industries the keys and the directions.
How do you think the CCSBA can help?
I think that it's a great networking tool. I think that with the right direction, with the guidance from Mike, good enough. And I look at this like, you know, Mike is building a chamber of commerce that's run by the people, for the people, you know, and that's needed, because the cannabis industry is more of a community, and, you know, we do checks and balances on each other. So yeah, I think that is the way to do it, to have the people get active through a mentorship program, through some kind of infrastructure set up like that. I do think that, you know, crowdsourcing would definitely help the Small Business Alliance grow.
In your opinion, what needs to change in the cannabis space?
I feel that they need to allow broader access to it, and not just the selected few businesses or larger MSOs who kind of seem to be overwhelming the space at the moment. Then, like in the hemp industry, we need to see better improvements. For, say, Connecticut, for instance, they have laws where your TAC, the total active cannabinoids in there, need to be lower than what the federal rules are. So it's almost like, you know, the whole state of Connecticut as a whole is not able to cultivate a fully mature plant. Therefore, you know, it doesn't help us be competitive in pricing and quality.
How do you think the CCSBA can help?
I feel that someone who would want to get involved just to help make sure that their market is providing an honest product and that it's just not being covered up and mass produced. Like, you want that, you know, the little guy, and support the mom and pop shops and your local, like your neighbor, for instance. I mean, I'd rather buy some, even if it's slightly more expensive, I'd rather buy it from my neighbor than someone who lives across the country. And buy local and, you know, support your neighbor.
In your opinion, what needs to change in the cannabis space?
I think what needs to change in the cannabis industry is that there needs to be an opportunity for everybody. I think that a lot of the people that are in charge of writing the statutes or, you know, making the change are only listening to the bigger companies, which have, unfortunately, bigger people and bigger pockets behind them. And, you know, I don't think that it's a personal move on their end. I think it's all business, unfortunately. But, you know, their tax dollars is just as good as my tax dollars.
Correct. So if you can't beat them, join them. How do you think the CCSBA can help?
I think that they should get involved because it allows you to have a voice. Even if you're sitting in the back quietly, eventually you may want to speak, and you're not treated any differently. I think that everybody is treated equally here, and I think there's a lot of information for growth, and I think there's a lot of, you know, ways that people can connect with each other. I think belonging to this organization is going to allow people to really open their minds and not be afraid to stand up for what their rights are as a United States citizen.
In your opinion, what needs to change in the cannabis space?
There are people who make stuff in their own home and want to share that with the world. It's probably not possible right now. In 2021, we passed a law to legalize adult use on top of what was an existing medical market. There were a lot of concerns that medical patients were going to lose some of the products. Those fears have become reality. The producers currently are not making some of the products that used to exist. If you have any interest in cannabis being a thing forever, you need to lobby your own legislator. Not even if you don't have a business, if you're just a consumer. You need to support people who are in this industry at every level. You need to learn. You need to understand what this plant can and can't do and fight against the stigma. We need to act properly as we stand this up, but we don't need to fight among ourselves.
How do you think the CCSBA can help?
I think where this alliance comes into play is to specifically try to get, you know, users, curious people who maybe are cottage industry people but just aren't licensed, and to give everybody a pathway to participate in the market. And you know, most small businesses and most jobs in any place come from small businesses. I think that's the future here. I'd love to see a day a few years from now, or maybe a little bit longer than that, whatever it takes, where people just love the plant and people just enjoy their, you know, the thing that makes them feel right, and can share the products that they make.